Good day. There was a king in ancient Greece. He was called Croesus. He was the king of a kingdom called Lydia. He was a very wealthy king, but he had a little problem. There was a kingdom not too far from him, the Persians. They had a king also who was also very powerful. And King Croesus had a worry. He felt that the Persian king may invade him. So what did he do? He went to the oracle of Delphi to ask if he should attack Persia. The oracle told him that if Croesus attacks, goes into war, a great kingdom will be destroyed. That was what the oracle told him. If you go into war, a great kingdom will be destroyed. The way he interpreted it is that the oracle told him to go into war and he will destroy Persia. Well, it didn't turn out that way. He went into war and he was defeated. He lost his kingdom. The same thing too happened on December 7th, 1941. Something significant happened in America, in Hawaii particularly, Pearl Harbor. A Japanese admiral, Yamamoto, had surmised that Japan needed minerals. And since Japan needed minerals, because Japan was expanding, Japan had attacked China, Japan had attacked most of the territories of the Dutch and Vietnam and Philippines and all that neighborhood, because they needed minerals. It so happened that at that time, too, American sanctions, these same sanctions we're talking about, had been rolled out against Japan, and Japan, as a growing empire, needed minerals. So one great strategist, Admiral Yamamoto, came up with a plan that if he deals a decisive blow on America, it will destroy the Pacific Fleet of America that was stationed in Hawaii, and it will not have America join the war. America will be demoralized. They will sign a peace deal with Japan, and they will not be part of the war, and Japan will go on its merry way, defeat all the countries within Southeast Asia, and take their minerals, because America had sanctioned them and they didn't have minerals. They didn't have access to rubber, access to oil, access to all the things that helped a country grow industrially. So they attacked Pearl Harbor. It didn't turn out that way for them. A few years later, in fact, the atomic bomb was dropped on Japan. As regards to Yamamoto himself, America planned an operation, and he was attacked and killed in 1943 in an American sting operation against him, particularly him. Things don't usually turn out the way we plan it. It has emerged now that Britain, and indeed almost all of Europe, are having their economic circumstances at this time. Britain, in fact, is close to a recession. In fact, theirs is even worse than a recession, because they may be defaulting on their loans soon. Britain is undergoing inflation. Britain is undergoing serious economic strangulation. And if you look back at it, all have their roots in the desire or the prompting of Ukraine to go into war with Russia. Good day, and welcome to my channel, Ebima Amungo's Perspective on Global Affairs. If you're new to this channel, please subscribe. If you have any comments regarding the opinions I express in this my video, please put them in the comment section. Do well to like and share. In April of 2022, Boris Johnson set out to Ukraine. He went to Kiev to go and meet Ukrainian President Zelensky. He was welcomed in Ukraine, And what was his mission? His mission was that Ukraine should not accede to the terms of the Istanbul agreement that was a discussion that was going on between Ukraine and Russia. Russia had sent an invading force across the Belarusian border and across the Sumy region, and were close to Kiev. They put pressure on Ukraine. They forced Ukraine to have some meetings in Istanbul, and Boris Johnson went to stop Ukraine from agreeing to the terms. Ironically, those terms that was put forward and was agreed with the Russians were the terms that the Ukrainians themselves had put forward in the Istanbul agreement. Boris Johnson intervened, and him and NATO members and all the countries of NATO prompted Zelensky and the Ukrainian government to reject the offer of the Ukrainians of the Russians, and instead go to war with Russia. It has not turned out well for Ukraine since then. What has happened since then is that Ukraine has lost 4 oblasts. Ukraine has lost a lot of people, and the war has had a significant effect on Europe. The war sparked inflation as never seen in Europe and in America. In fact, America, which was at the forefront of this war, was the one who suffered the most blowback, because inflation went up in America at a rate that had never been seen before, to the extent that Jerome Powell, the leader of the Fed, had to start to increase interest rates. Interest rates increased in America to almost 5%. It was unprecedented. The effects of that war has not stopped, finished, complete. It's not complete in America yet. There's still the point here now where the American economy is weak, ability to earn income is poor, and because of that inflation, America opened up its borders to migrants, over 10 million of them. Those migrants were the reasons why Donald Trump was now hammering and eventually got back into the White House, because he felt that open up the borders in such a manner was not a good thing for America. But if America has a resilience because they have oil, they fought inflation using monetary policy, and they do have ability to stimulate their fiscal policies also to fight inflation. It has not been a success so far, but they have the ability to fight it. Meanwhile, it's not the same for Europe. And today it emerged that UK is teetering on the verge of economic collapse. The Telegraph reported that there's crisis in England, and that the economy in England is crippling. It is getting close to what they experienced in 1976, to the point where they had to go to the IMF to go and seek loan. The crisis nearly 50 years ago saw Labour government forced to seek emergency loan from the IMF after deficit inflation spun out of control. So now Chancellor Rachel Reid faces similar warnings, with forecasts showing that there's a $50 billion pound gap in the public finance in UK, and debt interest is set to exceed 111. This is what they will be paying for debt, 111 billion pounds. Already in America, they pay almost $1 trillion in debt servicing. Debt now exceeds 96% of GDP. It is almost 2.7 trillion. Meanwhile, the ability of England to pay this debt is being challenged, because interest rates on yields on 30-year bond is climbing to the point of 5.5 In America, 30-year bonds struggle to be sold, and the yields are usually 4.9%, very close to 5%. America is doing better. In fact, the report says that yield is even better in Greece. We should all remember that Greece was once the country that was vilified for its high debt, but not anymore. So England is in a bad condition. England started this war, supports this war, and now they are also suffering the blowback of this war. This war has devastated Europe, like I've said. It has been a war that has affected Europe, increased inflation in Europe, slowed down economic growth. Economic growth particularly has been destroyed in Germany. Germany has anemic growth. Last year, Germany actually suffered a near recession because at the end of the year, they had a negative growth, but now they are at 0.9% growth. Inflation in oil, they don't have gas, they don't have oil, and Germany's own case is even worse because they had a policy where they stopped using nuclear energy. They invested in renewable energies, but it's not. So now what's happening? Right, Germany is being disindustrialized. Industries are leaving Germany. And supply chains, particularly the products they used to have, iron, fertilizer, all those products they used to have from Russia, gas, all have now been lost. Companies are suffering and many of them are leaving. The same thing too for France. France is more resilient because France uses a lot of nuclear power. So their energy cost is not as that of the Germans and that of England. England is in a bad situation to the point where it is now beginning to affect their ability to sustain their welfare. Pensions, particularly for the English pensioners, is being affected. And the Chancellor of the Esquire is already saying that they're going to increase tax. Increase in tax will also mean that the living standards will decrease. Nobody foresaw this happening to the Europeans, who have been the champions and the vanguard of the Ukrainian war, because they all have a common interest in trying to defeat, dismember, and destroy Russia. It hasn't turned out that way. Rather, Russia has entered an economic renaissance. Russia's economy has grown. They are at 4.4%, if not more. They are now industrializing at a pace that is, they are now the fourth largest economy by purchasing power parity. And they've got their confidence back because now they are putting those same machinery and equipment that they used to rely on Germany and other Western countries to provide to them. This is the rejuvenation of Russia. The whole calculus and the whole assumptions that led to this war has not turned out the way they wanted it. Rather, Ukraine has lost a lot. And now, even the ability to continue to sustain their welfare state is being challenged to the extent where the German Chancellor has said that it is not sustainable anymore to run the welfare state. It says Chancellor Friedrich Merz has called for reform of German social welfare spending while ruling out tax increases on medium scale. This comment was made at a state-level party conference in his Christian Democratic Union in Lower Saxony. It is sure that this is going to cause him problems with his social democratic partners. So he is saying that the welfare state that we have today can no longer be financed with what we produce in the economy. Merz said, the coalition, it is not a surprise. They are not able to continue in this welfare state because America has said it clearly that they are not going to bear the cost of this war anymore. America had been the one bearing the cost of security for Europe all these years, but President Trump has stated categorically that that's not going to happen anymore. And he would stop funding, or he has stopped funding the Ukrainian war. He stated it that the Ukrainian war, in fact, is now giving America some form of profit. This he was saying when he was talking to journalists in the White House, and this is what he had to say.
Air assets over the skies of Ukraine as part of a security guarantee. Wouldn't those U.S. airmen also be?
You don't know what security guarantee is because we haven't even discussed the specifics of it, and we'll see. Number one, Europe is going to give them significant security guarantees, and they should because they're right there. But we'll be involved from the standpoint of backup. We're going to help them, and I think if we get a deal, and I think we will, but if we get a deal, you're not going to. I don't believe you're going to have much of a problem. But we'll back it up because I want to stop seeing people being killed. You know, when Biden was here, he gave $350 billion. You know this from covering business. $350 billion to Ukraine. I said that Zelensky's the greatest salesman I think I've ever met, better than P.T. Barnum, because he'd come to the country, he'd walk out with $50 billion every time. He actually came here once, he walked out with $100 billion. We're up to $350 billion. I got $1 trillion worth of rare earth that we have in the country because I felt badly for our taxpayer. But I did something else at the NATO meeting. They are wealthy countries, but they weren't paying. And we don't pay any money to Ukraine anymore. Do you know that? In fact, it's the opposite. They request through NATO. We deal with NATO. We don't deal really with Ukraine. NATO requests missiles. They want Patriots. They want missiles. We give the missiles to NATO. NATO pays us in full and does what they want. I mean, I think they give them mostly they could do other things with them too, because we're dealing with NATO. We pay no money to Ukraine. We gave $350 billion to Ukraine. You know, if we didn't give...
So President Trump is saying that there's no more money coming from America to Ukraine. But there's a big irony. Even though he has said that there's no more money, and even though the German chancellor has said that the welfare state in Germany is no more sustainable, there was a big irony today. The German finance minister was in Kiev, and he said Germany is going to provide the Ukrainians with $9 billion over the course of the next 2 years. $9 billion. So you can't give your citizens the kind of welfare they have been used to, but you are continuing with the war. The same thing continues, the same story too with the British. The British Keir Starmer's government continues to funnel money to Ukraine. It is estimated in some conservative estimations $5 billion yearly. Some have said 12 billion. But Ukraine continues to enjoy the benefit of continuous funds, and it strengthens President Trump's position that Zelensky is a great salesman. In fact, while this is going on, Zelensky had the benefit of a very important contribution from NATO today. NATO says that they will make sure that they will continue to support Ukraine and that they will give Ukraine $50 billion in military aid. The bloc plans to match last year's support for Ukraine despite Russia's warning that it may prolong the conflict. The bloc's committee chairman, Giuseppe Gavo-Dragon, stated that NATO countries have already provided more than 33 billion since January and plan to raise a total 50 billion by the end of the year. President Trump may not be giving Ukraine any more money, but that does not mean that Ukraine is not finding favor from other sources. President Trump has said, and I have said and I've stated repeatedly, that he is not a fan of the Ukrainian people and he's not a fan of Zelensky particularly, but that does not take away the fact that Zelensky has become one of Ukraine's greatest assets ever in their lifetime. They have a very small budget. They have problems with the International Monetary Fund. As a country, they can't even pay back their loans. They are in default technically in quite a number of the loans and everything. But they enjoy such goodwill, and this goodwill was seen during the Independence Day. All the kings and all the kingdoms of Europe sent letters, and Zelensky was very proud to say this person and that king of Spain, of Portugal, all are sending him letters of congratulations, and especially on their Independence Day and their support. Carney of Canada flew in to go and show solidarity with the Ukrainian people. It is that Donald Trump is stopping American supply of money or funds to Ukraine doesn't mean that it has ended. We have just seen that NATO says they will continue to give 50 billion. And it has a lot to do with Zelensky. Zelensky, like Trump says, is a great salesman. He sells his country and he rallies the Europeans. In fact, in his speech, he did say that the Ukrainian war has unified Europe and strengthened America. That is how he sees it. He sees the fact that the Europeans that have had generations long, if not century-long Russophobia, have used Ukraine as a proxy, focused all their energy in trying to fight the Russian state using Ukrainian bodies. Zelensky is happy to be the one that is hobnobbing and interfacing and interacting with all the leaders of Europe. They all line up to show him deference and respect while his people die. Well, it's not all jolly news for Zelensky. Today we found out that the Polish president, the new one, has stated that it may not be, in fact, he did something very significant today. He vetoed a bill that was supposed to renew benefits to the Ukrainian refugees. There's something about the Ukrainian refugees in Germany and in Poland and in most countries in Europe. In their effusive bid to show how good they are as a people, Ukrainians were welcomed into all the countries of Europe, and over 8 million of them are there now. But there's something very particular about Ukrainian refugees. They don't work. They just get benefits. And because they get benefits without work, they have no incentive to work. So they don't work in Germany, they don't work in Poland. And so the Polish president, there was a bill that was brought to him for him to renew benefits to Ukrainians. And he says no, he vetoed it. And in vetoing it, what he is trying to argue is that that bill should be sent back to the House for amendment so that they can put a clause that will mean that the only beneficiaries of benefits to Ukrainian refugees should be those who work. The Germans are really worried because if you come to countries like America or other countries that tend to take refugees like Turkey, they try to put their refugees to work. They make sure that their refugees are useful to their economy. In America here, the first thing that the Biden administration did to all those refugees who signed up through the special app that he set up, and he brought in a lot of immigrants, not refugees, immigrants. They give them social security number. They do qualify for benefits, but they also are expected to work. They end up working as delivery. They contribute, they have some economic contributions they make to the state in which they are, but that's not what's going on in Europe. Ukrainian refugees are rolling in special treatment and being pampered. They have a great president that is making sure that they continue to have goodwill. So today there was pushback by the new Polish president, Karol Nawrocki. He vetoed the bill, and he says that he needs to look through and make sure that Ukrainians, the clause that will make sure that Ukrainians who enjoy benefit are those who work. ironically also, that bill also has payment for Ukraine's Starlink service that Poland is paying for. Ukraine has the benefit of Elon Musk Starlink. It gives them exceptional advantage. They can use it and communicate in all parts of the battlefield. It's a technological advantage that is just unique to them. Starlink has proven itself to be a game changer for the Ukrainians in the battle they have in the war with Russia. But the service has been paid for by countries, benefactors like Poland, and Poland has, in vetoing today's bill, it may also affect the payment for Starlink, but that will not be a problem at all. Ukraine is enjoying a lot of goodwill, but yet we now see that the blowback of the war, the intentions, has created, it's leading to the destruction of Europe. It's leading to the destruction of UK. UK is in dire straits. The full story of the economic demise or the economic blows that UK is facing will be one that probably I may have to do another video, get all the necessary economic facts, because one thing that UK is very good at is propaganda. They have the concept of the facade. They put up a good face, while the back may be having a lot of problem. But this war has exposed the fragility of the economy, and they too may just be going down the way that Germany is already going, especially as England doesn't even manufacture almost anything anymore. They are dependent. They are conclusively and comprehensively a service economy that relies so much on finance. In a world where China and America are building their economies on the digital economy that they control wholly between the two of them, and manufacturing that China controls completely, but America wants to come back. Europe is in a bad place. This is where I end my video for today. If you're new to my channel, please subscribe. If you have any comments regarding the opinions I express, please put them in the comment section. Do well to like and share. Be generous with your comments. Tell us what you feel about what's happening to the United Kingdom, to Britain. And if you live in England, particularly, I find out that most of my viewers are in UK. The UK always comes up second in the geographies of where the people who view this channel is. Please tell us the situation, the on-the-ground situation you find within your neighborhood or within your particular city that you live in, as regards to your perception of the economy of the United Kingdom. In fact, anyone who lives in Europe, France, Serbia, and all the countries that show immense support to Ukraine, tell us about how this war is impacting on your personal lives and on the lives of the people of your country and cities. Do like and share. Until I see you in my next video. Have a good day.